Animal rights extremists have been busy this year, smashing up butchers' shops, destroying traps on estates, and persecuting gamekeepers until they quit. Websites like Unoffensive Animal catalogue the carnage, subtly cheering on attacks on businesses involving meat.
Butchers are a good easy target because people finish at night and go home. And the stories in there of smashing windows, I mean, it's childish stuff. You can see this is people's livelihoods and this is, jobs.
At the same time, it's suffered setbacks. Police forced its website and another animal rights website, Innocent Badger, off UK servers for illegal activity. Unoffensive Animal has come up with a low-tech solution to state censorship: paper. Issue 1 of a new printed magazine, Wildfire, is a Terrorist Handbook, showing how to smash traps in the windows of butcher shops, release livestock and chop down high seats. Former Metropolitan policeman turned investigator Ian Jensen says it harks back to the animal rights movements of the 1980s and 90s.
Once you've got a magazine like this, you're beholden to no one, and when you read it, it does actively talk about committing crime. It is almost a manual on how to commit rural crime. Some of the drawings and some of the discussions in it about how to identify the traps, how to disable them, i.e. smash them to pieces, fold them up, jump them down on them, and you can see the diagrams on them, how to do it. It's not the sort of thing you're going to find in a dentist or the doctors, is it? Pick up the table and go, what, have a read of that? There's a particular section in there that has a pictorial explanation of how to go out into the countryside, how to pull down high seats and how to come back and not get caught. And of course the first one is leave your phone at home so that you can't be tracked, or later on in life if people look at your phone data to see where you were at the time, there's nothing, the phone can't prove where you were.
One chapter claims readers can shut down the game shooting industry for good.
I think it's really interesting that in that magazine they talk about targeting game farms, because if we can target the game farms, that's a supply of birds to the industry. If we target them, then the industry falls apart because there's no supply. There's no point in going knocking down a pen and, standing in front of people with their guns when all you can do is knock off the supply of it. There was, I think on Frida Brock's, wasn't it, or Innocent Badger website, there was a list of a map with loads and loads of game farms identified on it.
Tim Bonner from Countryside Alliance plays down the threat but recommends caution.
We've got to be careful that we don't give oxygen to their campaigns and simply buy into this and start running around the place saying, oh, this is a nightmare, everybody hates us, they all want to do horrible things to us, because they don't. Fundamentally, they don't. There are not very few people who care with any passion about banning us from shooting pheasants or chasing foxes. But there are a small number of people, and they can be dangerous, both physically, and both in terms of the actions they take. So we got to find this balance, this difficult balance between not over promoting the campaigns that are carried out by the extremists, but on the other hand, taking due care and precautions to ensure that the few people who are involved in these activities don't have a really fundamental impact on our lives.
One of the more disturbing chapters in the magazine encourages its extremist readers to carry out their own vet care on animals they steal from farms, labs, abattoirs, etc.
So I think they like to give out a narrative and a story of, taking a monkey or a beagle that's had half its brain removed and you're rushing it to some benevolent vet friend who's going to stitch it up and it's going to live in your bedsit or your squat for the rest of your life, and it's going to live a fantastic life because you're going to care for it. I think that's just a narrative they like to generate, and I think it's one that makes them feel all warm and fuzzy inside.
These people are just wildly irresponsible. The one thing that I would say in their favour is that they clearly know that what they're going to do is liable to go wrong and cause harm to the animals they're attempting to handle.
But I think they want to perpetuate the myth that animals in the farming industry, and particularly animals in the pharmaceutical industry, are poorly treated. I mean, it may well have been the case once upon a time, but it certainly isn't the case now.
Certainly the kind of laboratory animal work that I'm familiar with, although it's not something I've actually done myself, but I'm familiar with it through my regulatory work, involves treating animals with drugs very commonly at double the recommended dose to monitor the effects. Usually there are none.
Some of the advice would be comical if it weren't for the fact animals are in danger in the hands of amateur vets. For example, how to keep them warm.
There are times when animals do need to be warmed up, but I've never come across anybody whose expertise was in animal husbandry to recommend putting them down your shirt. That's the kind of thing which makes me think that it's been written by somebody who has the ability to use his imagination and think of things, but has little or no practical experience of caring for animals.
Clearly, if the authors thought what they are doing is legal, they would show their faces and put their real names by the articles instead of online nicknames.
This isn't a fictional book about people committing crime. This is a manual. This is there is advice and guidance given and encouragement given to go and commit crime.
So who is behind it? Unoffensive Animal prides itself on anonymity, but releasing the magazine has exposed the people behind it. On the back of the envelope sent out is the address of the printer. Google that and you get a rare find. A printer that doesn't want to advertise itself in the same unit as a vegan clothes shop run by someone who has appeared in court for trespassing during a raid on an abattoir. We have passed this information to the police and will follow the investigation closely.